How do you create a demigod? In the last video, we saw how lethal B was against an army of forces. And in this video, we're going to discover how he came to be, how he was conceived, how he was born, and how he trained to become the monster he is. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about comic books and stuff. And today we return with BRZRKR Issue 2. We continue our story with the telling of a story from B's point of view. We are introduced to a tribe of nomads, peaceful people that are looking for a place to settle, traveling from destination to destination, worshipping gods that have never really showed support for them till now, until they found a land they could call their own. But that land was suffering, with constantly being attacked and pillaged by other tribes surrounding them. They were weak and defenseless, and they needed help. But something was off. The therapist was pissed off. We know this already. You have told this story 1,000 times, but I know you have remembered more. I can see your brainwave activities. Stop holding back. Let me in. This could be the key to giving you your mortality back. And so he continued about how his clan used to suffer on constant pillaging. First it was the food, then it became the women and the children. They needed help, and a young couple came together to provide that help. B's parents themselves. His father was a timid man, while his mother was well and outspoken. She had a plan because she was tired of losing people she loved to forces she could not control, and so she convinced her husband to help her give herself as an offering to the gods they worship, with one simple request: we need a weapon. And so preparations were done. She gathered leaves and specific plants to make a broth for her ceremony, and her husband helped. But the scientist, as soon as she heard that, she wanted to know the specific plants, but B didn't know it. His mother was never specific. After preparations were made, they headed back to the cave of worship, where she sat in wait for the ceremony to begin. Lighting all the gathered ingredients, she told her husband it was time, and he made sure she knew he was outside protecting her while the ceremony happens. And she started to chant, calling on their gods. And what happened next? Well, what happened next cannot be explained, because she left. She felt the force so powerful she could not comprehend, and neither could her husband. He felt a presence even while outside the cave. When she came out, she thought she had failed, but her husband assured her that he felt something, that they should just give it time, and the gods will provide them an answer. And they went to bed. Simple. But when they awoken, they awoken to a surprise. Shorty was pregnant, and I mean, she was fully pregnant. She was expecting a child, and all her husband could say was, "I told you so." 2 moons after, he was born. 2 moons after, the immortal man, killing machine B, was brought to Earth. His mother and his father tried to explain to the village what had happened, what he was, but they didn't believe till they saw him reach for a fire and did not get burnt. Over time, he aged quickly, and as soon as he saw any threat to his territory, he attacked, ripping them asunder. As he grew older, he realized that there was something inside him, a hunger, but not a hunger of taking food in, no. This was a hunger of letting something out, because even at the slightest provocation, he was able to rip a fully developed child apart. He tried to apologize to his parents, but they simply said, "Don't apologize. This is your purpose. This is what you are." And so his training began. He was phenomenal at the killing arts. He was very equipped to take down foes. And at a certain age, he discarded all his weapons, being able to face a bear alone and eating its hearts after. As soon as he got home, covered in bruises and injuries, his parents tried to bandage him up, but there was no point. He was already healed. But then, the next plundering began. They came and they took women, children, and foods, and they loved doing it. They smiled. His parents had to physically hold him back, telling him to wait. It is not time yet. You are not ready. Watch, listen. They are your foes. know them, understand them, and he made a promise: never again, never again. The seasons that followed saw him dismantling his own teacher. His training was done. He was already at peak killing performance. Now he had to build his body, but using tools didn't help, so he transcended into using his fists, growing stronger by the day, strong enough to crush rocks with his hand, fast enough to chase a cheetah down, strong enough to pick it over his head and rip it apart in half. He did not feel fear. He felt free. But all this felt pointless. What does knowing about my past have to do with finding my mortality? But the doctor assured him that this serves a purpose. His hand was already healing up. She got ready to administer another medication, but he said, what is the point? I have been with the US government for hundreds of years. I have been measured. I have been tested. I have been sampled. I have been analyzed. I have been scanned. I have been poked. And the poking was not even new. They poked me back in the day as well. But she assured him this time will be different. She promised him to just trust her and she will get him results. And so he decided to trust her, continuing on with his story about how his parents, on the final day on the new season, when they were about to be plundered again, they came forth and asked for peace. They wanted an alliance, so there will be no need for bloodshed. But after all of this, the plunderers simply laughed in their face because they didn't want to stop. No, they wanted to continue. This was fun to them. This brought them joy. And so his parents simply let them pass. There was nothing they could do. The bloodshed to follow was not on them. And there was bloodshed to follow, because as soon as they reached the village, they met him, B, wielding a big spear and a gigantic axe, eyes glowing with energy. He attacked, and everything that stood in his way was decimated. The horses, the men. He was like a wild beast unleashed, and he was having the time of his life, ripping apart flesh and beating people with it. He was no Jet Li. He got struck, but he struck back harder. And when he was done, when he stood atop a mountain of corpses, he was at peace. This was his purpose, and his purpose was complete. And telling this story back, he realized at this moment, after his first massacre, this was the only moment in his entire life where he felt happiness. But what was to follow was not happiness at all.